Every day, at the same time, he appeared with his broom in hand, sweeping the school sidewalk as if it were a sacred ritual. He didn't make a fuss, didn't call attention to himself, but anyone who paid attention to that man's eyes would notice something different there, a discreet gleam, almost faded, of someone who had already lived great things, but chose silence. The teachers passed by hurriedly. Parents greeted him with a vague wave, and the children, those he watched with silent affection, as if he saw in them pieces of a story that only he knew. No one wondered where he came from or why, at his age, he was still there. He was just the janitor until a new principal arrived, young, attentive, curious. In the first few days, he didn't pay much attention, but gradually that discreet figure, sweeping the school floor with such care, began to catch his attention. Something about that man seemed to clash with the position he held, as if he belonged to another time, another place. And then came the old notes, a forgotten name in a dusty folder, and a discovery that silenced the principal's heart. That gentleman, whom everyone thought was ordinary, had been more than someone important. He had been essential, a master, silenced by time, and an injustice that no one remembered anymore. What happened next was a real turnaround, because sometimes the greatest lessons aren't in what is taught, but in what is lived in silence. And this janitor, with his broom and humble gaze, was about to transform an entire school. Once again, some stories don't shout, they whisper. They live between the lines of daily life, in simple gestures, in looks that few notice. This one you're about to hear was born from a broom, from calm steps, and from a silence that carried more memory than any library. And when the truth was finally discovered, no one could hold back their tears. Maybe you know someone like that, someone who never sought applause, but who every day does something extraordinary, even if no one sees. Someone who loves what they do, even having been forgotten, judged, or demoted. This story is for those people, and also for those who need to learn to look more carefully at those who are on the margins. Here on the channel, we believe in the transformative power of empathy. Each video is an invitation to see the world through different eyes, to slow down and pay attention to the beauty that exists in the details. And if this story touches your heart, don't let it pass by as just another video. Leave your mark here. Like, comment, share. By the way, comment below what city and country you're watching from. It's exciting to see how stories like this reach people in so many corners of the world. Each of your comments is a reminder that these stories still make sense, and that the world needs to keep listening to voices that routine insists on silencing. So get comfortable, grab a coffee, some tea, or just take a deep breath. Because today's story is going to move you. It will remind you that not every hero wears a cape. Some just wear a broom, a tired look, and a heart full of lessons. Welcome, and may this story find you with an open heart. He arrived early, always before the sun touched the courtyard floor. The broom glided precisely over the sidewalk, as if each swept leaf were a piece of the past being carried away. No one really knew his name, but everyone called him Mr. Nelson. He didn't talk much. He had a calm way, almost invisible, of someone who had already learned to take up little space in the world. Children ran past him without noticing. Some smiled, others just stepped aside, but no one really saw that man. And yet he smiled, a discreet smile at the corner of his mouth, like someone carrying an old secret. Day after day, the same sidewalk, the same worn uniform, the same silent steps, until a curious gaze would begin to notice what others ignored. Mr. Nelson did more than sweep. He cared for the plants around the school with rare affection, watered slowly, talked to the branches, and arranged the soil with his own hands. It was as if he had a secret connection with every corner of that place. When the children arrived, he opened the gate with a shy wave. He never said much, but made sure to look into each one's eyes, and whoever reciprocated saw there a different gleam, like someone recognizing something they couldn't explain. A small gesture, but full of intention. During recess, he always sat on the same bench under the largest tree in the courtyard. He observed everything in silence, the games, the laughter, the conversations. And although he never interfered, his presence seemed to bring an invisible calm to the environment, as if the school knew it was being truly cared for. Some staff members saw Mr. Nelson with certain disdain. They whispered that he was already too old, that he walked slowly, that maybe it was time to make room for younger people. Others, without malice, simply considered him invisible, as if he were part of the school furniture. In the teacher's lounge, between one laugh and another, veiled jokes emerged. "I think he doesn't even hear properly anymore," said one. "Sweeping the same spot for half an hour," another would say. No one bothered to ask who he was or why he continued there with such dedication, but there were also those who respected him in silence. One teacher or another greeted him with a more sincere "good morning," sensing that there was something in him that no one was seeing. But as almost always happens with those who serve in silence, he continued to be underestimated. The arrival of the new principal stirred up the school routine. Marcelo Bastos was young, came from another city, and had an attentive eye, one of those that notice what goes unnoticed. Unlike the previous ones, he liked to walk through the corridors, talk to everyone, and observe the details. Right in the first month, Marcelo noticed something unusual about Mr. Nelson. It wasn't just the care with which he swept the sidewalk, nor his impeccable punctuality. There was a deep calm, a different presence, as if that man had a greater purpose behind the broom. While many passed by hurriedly, Marcelo would stop from time to time to observe. He felt there was a story behind that serene silence, like a book that no one had bothered to open. And the more the janitor avoided calling attention, the more the principal wanted to understand who he really was. It was an ordinary afternoon, like so many others, when Principal Marcelo decided to walk through the empty courtyard during the break. The sun drew shadows between the trees, and the silence was broken only by distant laughter. It was then that, on one of the wooden benches, he saw a paper carefully folded. Curious, he picked up the note and read slowly, "Thank you for teaching me to see the world through different eyes. I will never forget your classes. R.S." The handwriting was old, firm, and there was a date from more than 20 years ago. The message wasn't signed with a title, just with affection. Marcelo was intrigued. To whom did that thanks belong? And why had such an intimate paper been left there just now? He looked around, then kept the note in his pocket, not yet knowing that he had just opened the first window to a truth that no one at the school imagined. With the note kept in his wallet and curiosity ignited, Principal Marcelo began to observe the school janitor more carefully. He noticed how he always arrived early, swept the leaves with almost ceremonial care, and arranged the benches like someone organizing a memory. There was something there that went beyond routine. Without wanting to create a stir, Marcelo began asking discreet questions. First to the secretary, "What's the full name of that cleaning gentleman again?" She frowned. "We call him Mr. Pedro, but I've never seen his complete file." She tried to search her memory but had no answers. Not even the oldest employees knew where he came from. This only increased the mystery. How could someone spend so much time in a place without leaving clear traces? Marcelo accessed old records, spreadsheets, documents, but Pedro's name only appeared as a contracted third party without personal information. That was no longer just curiosity. It was a call to understand who, in fact, was sweeping that sidewalk every day in silence. During a cleanup in the school storage rooms, Principal Marcelo decided to explore an old room that was usually kept locked. Among boxes of old school supplies, forgotten pictures, and dusty books, something caught his attention. A picture frame covered by a thick cloth, left in a dark corner. Upon removing the cloth, there was an aged diploma with edges yellowed by time. At the top it read, "Professor Pedro Enrique dos Santos, honor for 25 years of dedication to history teaching." The name was the same as the janitor's. Marcelo felt a chill. That couldn't be a coincidence. The man everyone treated as invisible had once been celebrated as a master right there. The principal remained still for a few minutes, holding the diploma carefully. It was like finding a piece of truth buried under the rubble of indifference. In that instant, everything began to fit together. The janitor's attentive gaze, the careful gestures with the children, the silence loaded with stories. He wasn't just an employee, he was a forgotten legacy. At the end of the afternoon, when the school was emptier and the sun gilded the courtyard, Principal Marcelo went to the janitor. He found Mr. Pedro sweeping dry leaves with the same delicacy as always. He approached slowly, respectfully, with the diploma in his hands and a lump in his throat. "Mr. Pedro, can I ask you something?" said the principal, trying to sound light. The janitor stopped sweeping, raised his eyes serenely, and nodded. Marcelo raised the diploma carefully. "Why didn't you ever tell anyone that you were a teacher here, that you received this honor?" There was silence, dense, profound, but not heavy. Mr. Pedro took a deep breath. "Because no one asked, son. And because I thought it no longer mattered." His voice was firm, without bitterness, just real. He looked at the diploma like someone rediscovering a part of their soul. "I was away for years, and when I came back, I didn't want to take up space. I just wanted to care, silently." Marcelo felt his eyes well up, and deep down he knew he was before a man greater than any title. Sitting on a bench in the now empty courtyard, Marcelo asked permission to hear more. Mr. Pedro, with his eyes lost in the school's horizon, began to tell his story. There was no hurry, no anger, just memories that returned like a gentle wind on an autumn afternoon. He said he had been a teacher right there, at that school. For more than 20 years, he had taught history with passion. He was loved by students, respected by colleagues. But in a confusing administrative reform, he ended up being unjustly accused of having made a mistake he hadn't made. At the time, he preferred silence to dispute. He requested dismissal and disappeared. Years later, with age weighing on him and his heart still attached to that place, he saw a city hall announcement for a janitor position. "I thought, at least I'll return close to what I loved." And he returned. Without resentment, without fanfare, just with a broom in his hands and the same love for the floor that was once his battlefield, and of dreams. That night, Principal Marcelo couldn't sleep. Mr. Pedro's words echoed in his mind like warning bells. It was as if the school had a silent debt to that man, and he, as principal, had the chance to settle more than papers and reports, a debt of dignity. He decided then to organize a simple ceremony, but loaded with meaning. He called former teachers, looked for ex-students on social media, wrote invitations by hand. "Let's honor him without pomp, but with truth," he told everyone. The response was immediate. Moved people, shared stories, tears that came just with the memory of Teacher Pedro. On the scheduled day, the courtyard was decorated with colored cardboard, flowers picked from the school's own garden, and a sign written by a second-grade child. "Thank you for cleaning our floor and filling our hearts." Mr. Pedro, when called to the center, took time to understand. And when he understood, he just cried. Not from sadness, but from realizing that, after all, someone still saw him. Gradually, familiar faces began appearing among the guests. An elderly lady raised her hand with teary eyes and said, "It was you who taught me to like mathematics, teacher." A big man, in a construction worker's uniform, told how it was Mr. Pedro who helped him finish high school at night, many years ago. The stories sprouted like seeds kept for decades. Each account drew spontaneous applause, discreet tears, and grateful smiles. Parents discovered that the man who swept the sidewalk in silence had been directly responsible for their children's education, and that changed everything. Respect took the place of neglect, and honor spread like perfume. In the end, a line formed, not to ask for autographs, but to shake Mr. Pedro's hand. Each touch was a reunion. The principal watched in silence, moved, and he knew that school would never be the same, because now, there, everyone knew that true impact often comes from those who never made a point of being seen. The next day, the school seemed different. The gate was the same, the sidewalk too, but there was something in the air. The children began greeting Mr. Pedro with enthusiasm, and even the teachers, previously distracted, stopped to talk. His silence remained there, but now it was loaded with meaning, respect, history. The principal decided to place, right at the entrance, a small plaque with the words, "On this sidewalk walked a master disguised as a janitor. Honor each step." It wasn't a grandiose tribute, but a sincere one. It was the way to ensure that the next generations would know that greatness isn't measured by positions, but by legacy. And so, Mr. Pedro's story became a living part of the school, not for the titles he hid, but for the heart he revealed. Because there are people who pass through life leaving trails of brightness where others only saw dust, and when someone finally sees, everything changes. And you? Have you looked around carefully today? Maybe you've never swept a sidewalk like Mr. Pedro, but how many times have you felt invisible, even while giving your best? This story isn't just about belated recognition. It's about the value we carry in silence, about the importance of continuing, even without applause. How many people around you might be living something similar? A quiet coworker, a lonely neighbor, an elderly lady who goes unnoticed at the market. The world is full of discreet heroes, of masters camouflaged in daily life, and it's up to us to see them. If this story touched your heart, don't keep it to yourself. Share with someone who needs a little inspiration today, and subscribe to the channel to continue following stories like this, that don't shout, but echo. And tell me here in the comments, where are you watching from? Let's spread together this chain of respect and recognition.